Yeah, it's like, that was kind of good not having.
All right. Let's go ahead and call this city council meeting of September 6th to order at 6:48. Roll call, please. Here.
Here,
Here. 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 Thank you, Lucero. Okay, item number 2 on the agenda is additions or corrections to the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections? Counselor Jordan, sorry, Jordan.
Mayor, I would love to recommend removing 8.3, resolution for council rules and procedure, since we were unable to hold a study session to discuss it tonight.
Okay, so just moving it off the agenda.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Lucero, do you have a pen? I seem to have lost my pen.
I've got
one away. Item 8.3. Thank you. And excuse to get up. All right. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is item number 3, community announcements. Steph, do you have any community announcements?
We'll do a quick check. Hector, would you like to announce any events tonight? I do, but I don't have it up. I apologize.
But can everyone hear me? Great. Hold on a second, Council.
I don't have it.
Okay, I'll have to work from memory. September is quite a busy time of the month. Just today, we had the AARP and Talent Business Alliance community building event here in Talent. September 11th, we have the Red Cross coming in to do a blood drive. And then September 16th, there's quite a bit going on. September 16th, there's the Bear Creek Stewards Park cleanup, El Mercadito at Commons Park. And I think the TVA is also hosting a music event, if I'm not mistaken, music on the Commons. September 14th, Chief, that would be the pizza with Talent PD at the Grotto. Is that correct? And then I'll jump ahead really quick. September 23rd is a recycle roundup. After 3 years of it not being held, we're trying to bring it back. And then the Harvest Festival is October 7th. I'm sorry if I can't remember everything, but there's quite a bit going on in September.
Pretty remarkable, working off of memory.
My birthday is January 10th.
And Mayor, I would love to add on, just since we have so many community members in the room today, on Friday, Talent Historical Society is holding an Alameda Fire commemoration during the afternoon on the stage over here in our Commons Park. It is the closing of their exhibit that they prepared in memory and commemoration of the fire. And then that evening at the Grotto is also holding a commemoration with speakers and some music.
That's great. I just want to add that the September 16th event is also Mexican Independence Day, a celebration with an all-day festival. You want to offer some details on that, Anna?
Sure. It's a collaborative community event generated between Talent Business Alliance, Coalición Fortaleza, Rogue Action Center, and Rogue World Music. And so there are over 25 vendors participating. They'll be around Town Hall, and there will be other activities provided by Scenic G Art Studios, by Talent Maker City, and by folkloric dancers from our community. And then starting at 6, we have an incredible artist coming who we're just really excited to showcase to the community, La Doña. Free concerts and in a space that is perfect to accommodate families. So.
Yeah, sounds like it's going to be great. Eleanor, Council Penamara?
Yeah, September is a busy month. On September 11th, Monday at 6 p.m. in the Talent Library, a group of talent neighbors working with SOCAN, Southern Oregon Climate Action Now, will be presenting on Electrify Your Home. So you can find out how you can get off gas and lower your electric bill. And
Great.
that's a public event.
Any other community announcements? We, at the council, tonight, also want to take this opportunity to thank our city manager for her incredible service to our community. Normally this would be brought up on other business, but that's a late night, agenda item, and, with so many people in the audience, we want to share this thank you with, folks that are attending tonight. From my view, Jordan, you brought a very unique management style to this community that was desperately needed at the time that you arrived. Sometimes the universe delivers the right person at the right time, and that certainly was the case with you. You're a bridge builder. You are kind. You do a spreadsheet like no one I've ever seen before, and PowerPoint presentations. No, I don't want to diminish your skills. Your organization, your approach to advanced planning, your goal setting, your organization, bringing all of the departments together around. I think I saw an email recently that said you are juggling 63 priorities this for 2024. I haven't seen that level of organization in this community for some time, and you really just are such a unique manager, and there's a depth of appreciation for the work that you've done. Thank you so much for everything that you've done. It's been a great pleasure working with you. I also want to invite my colleagues who are prepared to say a little something as well. So we're just going to run down the line. Councilor Panamara?
Yeah, so I was thinking back to before we hired you in one of your interviews, you said public policy is my jam. And then you proceeded to tell us about not like, oh, and I did this great thing, about something that went really wrong for you. And all the steps that you took to try to figure out why some presentation didn't go so great, why people didn't show up, and all of that work to make it right. And that was a very authentic representation of who you are, and both the passion that you bring and just the constant striving for success and improving yourself, and all the things that the mayor said as well. So it is with extraordinary appreciation. We were so lucky to have you for these past 2 years. And when you get bored, you come.
Councilor Pesquisa?
Yeah, you did good. No, everything they've said, I think for me, you definitely have a lot of skills, but I think what comes through the most for me is that you just seem very genuine, and I think that works well for you.
Councilor Byer?
Well, I love your humanity and the touch, the heart touch that you have brought to some really fraught issues in our community, and the way that you've just been able to be a conduit of information, but also calmness and strength and grace. And man, the grace that you have handled under pressure, both without and, this has not been an easy 2 years, and it wouldn't have been for any city manager. And so thank you. And yeah.
Councilor Perry Miller?
Well, I am not prepared. I will say that I have the honor of knowing you the longest, probably of anyone in this room. And yeah, it's just been such a pleasure and an honor working with you. And I second Councilor Panamara's point. When you get bored, you come back. Come back to us. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. I would love just to say, I so appreciate the affirmation, but this was such a team effort these past 2 years. And to work with a council that's rowing the boat in the same direction and is willing to show up to meetings, and we've had a lot of meetings these past 2 years, to work with a community that is so engaged and so willing to step up to learn topics and provide input on topics is essential for any healthy community. And then just the staff that I get to work with on a daily basis have been the biggest blessing and the biggest, oh, now I'm tearing up. Happened sooner than I thought. That, it's always bittersweet in a transition, But knowing that the team is what it is, staff who they are, community is part of the equation, and then to have Tom step into the role as an interim. As I said with my letter in Talent News and Review, it's not just good hands that talent is in, it is with good hearts, which is the most essential thing for any community. So Tom, I'd love to say welcome, and staff, I want to say bravo. It has been an honor these last 2 years.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is speakers heard on non-agenda items. And I think I have some speaker request forms. Let's start with Karen Wheeler Clay. Please step forward and state your name and city for the record. City. The city that you reside in.
City that I reside in, Karen Wheeler Clay, Executive Director of the Johnson County Community Long-Term Recovery Group. I reside in Phoenix, but I spend a lot of hours at my office in town. And I just wanted to thank Jordan for her service to the community and for lending a kind ear and shoulder to scream by on when things aren't working and how they are working and figuring out like how do we celebrate the successes and even faster than right. So I really appreciate your leadership, guidance, and I look forward to all that you will in the community. Right? It's the next chapter, it's not the beginning. So, and Tom, I'm very excited to show you better. So, thank you.
Thank you. Alex Campbell, please step forward and state your name and city for the record. By the way, we used to ask people to state their address, and now we just ask people to state their city. So we don't need to know where everybody lives, but currently there's for the record.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I just want to add my voice there. I would echo all the sentiments. I would also add a lot of courage to step into this role. And I really admire that. And the combination of professionalism with the compassion and the heart that was mentioned is really exceptional. And it was really appreciated. And just an example of that, we spent some time with the Gateway residents at a community meeting, and having Jordan and her approach and presence in that room was, you know, one of the things that got us through difficult times. And I'm sure there are lots of moments like that that I did.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Okay, speaker request form from Derek Sherrill. Please come forward and state your name and city for the record.
Good evening, Derek Sherrill. I live in Talent, Oregon, and I just wanted to bring up two things. One non-agenda item is something that came up recently that has to do with the water department and billing through the Public Works Operation and Maintenance Agreement that has to do with the SDC application long-term and the charge for water on accessory dwelling units. So when that legislation or that piece of literature was put together, it was before any of our 1051, any of our state legislation that supported infill housing and talked about the great savings that we could have to this unique opportunity to build housing. And now those prices are being pushed on to consumers. So I think there's about 100, according to my unofficial study, there's probably about 100 tenants in town that are paying maybe an elevated water rate. I'm not saying that we don't need that for the infrastructure, and I'm all for the stipulation in the O&M agreement that says we can charge every resident up to 1 year's water bill to help needed infrastructure on our system. I'm not here to complain. I'm willing to be a member on some kind of working group for a utility increase committee or commission, but it's something that it came up, and it's a pretty big cost. So if your water is metered at your primary house, and we're following state legislation and best practices from the DLCD, and now you add an accessory dwelling unit, you pay fractional SDCs, you only have that 1 meter. The point of a meter is to pay for what goes through that meter, what is used. You put an ADU on your property, now you can be charged not only the SDC fees, but also the 3 monthly fees for transportation, for parks and for public safety, as well as the first 3,000 gallons that you're using. So how do you charge somebody 3,000 gallons multiple times? It's metered for a reason. So anyways, I brought that up to the attention of Public Works, Community Development, and eventually it landed on the desk of the city manager. And I just want to say that through the process of trying to advocate for infill housing and infill development, I had the pleasure of meeting and working with Jordan. I worked with everybody in her staff. I was like banging my fist on every office in the city. Like everybody treated me kind, everybody treated me professionally. Jordan got back to me within about a week with everything I requested. It was a pretty long list of like planning requests. And through that process, I realized that everybody in that building respected and trusted and looked up to Jordan. And it was a huge, just an eye-opening thing for me to see somebody so young and so motivated and so kind that I was disagreeing with and getting told a no to. And I had like this admiration and respect for her, and all the employees loved her. So when I heard she was leaving, I was like, man, I'm this young, motivated, ass-kicking woman running our city, and she's leaving. Like, this is bullshit. So I just want to show up and speak on the water issue. It's a longer thing. I'm willing to do some work on it. You guys know how to get a hold of me, but mostly that's the roundabout story to how awesome Jordan is. Hate to see you go. You're young, you're an amazing leader, and you're going to be super successful wherever you're at.
That might be the best speech of the night. Okay, the next item on the agenda is department reports, 5.1 department report staff.
Yes. So staff heads have all been supporting me as I prepare to transition and hand off to Tom tomorrow. So we were not able to produce a written report, but all department heads that are in town are present tonight and happy to answer any questions. But before I turn over all to you, I just kind of want to recognize that the fire commemoration is coming up, the anniversary is coming up. And I would just love to take the chance to share some numbers with you all, since numbers are my love language, just so everyone can hear out loud, where we are in our rebuild progress. I'm working on a pretty graph for you all, but it's gonna have to come tomorrow.
Did you say you're working on a pretty graphic for us?
Yes.
Oh, good, because I'd like to get that.
So we've been working a lot with Nikki Hart-Brinkley, who's our GIS analyst, to really try to standardize how we measure recovery and how we measure recovery in comparison with Phoenix and the county and the town, so that we're all seeing trends similarly. And so I'm gonna share tonight is slightly different than what you guys are used to hearing. I'm gonna talk in terms of structures rather than units. We just haven't made the data in the right format to be units. But I'll start with commercial properties, because I know that was the slowest to recover in our communities. So 53% of the primary commercial structures, and emphasize the structure may have multiple units in it, but 53% of them have pulled building permits to rebuild, which is great. Almost all of them are in our highway corridor. You guys can see all the scaffolding and infrastructure go up as that part comes back to life. Our single family home primary structures, so not counting ADUs, but just those primary single family homes, 72% have pulled building permits. Multifamily complexes, so not counting the units within the multifamily complexes. In town, we had 7 different complexes that were burnt in the fire. 5 of them have pulled building permits, so they're either rebuilt or rebuilding. Manufactured homes. Looking at this data, we lost 276 spaces for manufactured homes. 192 spaces are currently available for a home to be placed. And of those total lost spaces, 17% of the homes have returned. So manufactured homes continue to be the biggest challenge for coming back into our community, both for cost reasons as well as supply chain reasons. When I look at these numbers, though, there's also a lot to celebrate. Having overall 70% of impacted properties have actively begun rebuilding or finished rebuilding, which is phenomenal 3 years post-fire. So I want to just share that information and graphic forthcoming.
Jordan, when you send that graphic, would you also send us the so we've been operating off of units this
Units.
whole time.
Yeah.
Can we get an update on that as well, just for
Yeah.
context?
And I will ask Kristen to send that to you all about a week from now. She's out of town this week
Okay,
and she's my double check on number of units. And so I'll ask her to follow up with you all.
that's great. Thank you very much. If that, and if she doesn't have to do, I mean, I'm not expecting to see it right when she lands. I mean, whatever her capacity allows. Thank you for that report. Okay, and the next item on the agenda is the consent calendar, items 6.1 through 6.7. Does anybody have anything that they want to pull out for further discussion? Let's see. I wanted to ask about, I have a couple questions about 6.7, so I'd like to pull that out for further discussion. Actually, I only have one question. Are there any other items for further discussion? I think I want to pull out 6.6 as well. Anything else? So the consent calendar, subject for a motion for approval is 6.1 through 6.5. Does anybody have any questions or comments about either, any of those items? We've all had a chance to read the minutes and review the check register. Okay, so if there's no questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to adopt 6.1 through 6.5. Counselor Penamarath,
Move to adopt the consent calendar 6.1 through 6.5.
Second.
is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6.6 is the approval of contract with, it's supposed to say contract, right? Contract of Tom Humphrey for the interim manager services. My question is, I was thinking we would see like, and I don't have the packet. I was thinking we would see a recommendation from RV Cog. Did we get that?
RV Cog is the one that negotiated this contract with Tom. And it was forwarded to me by Adrian after review by our city attorney. With the request to place it on the consent calendar. So I can take from implication of talking to Adrian on the phone that this is their recommendation to approve this contract.
Okay, thanks.
I believe she's available.
Oh, is she on the call?
Yeah.
Even better.
Well, that's actually just answers the question I have. I don't have any additional questions.
Great.
Are there any other questions? All right. So I'll entertain a motion to approve item 6.6. Counselor Byers,
I move to approve item 6.6, the agreement between Tom Humphrey, interim city manager, and City of Talent.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to approve the contract with Tom Humphrey for interim city manager services. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 6.7 is the approval of city manager execution of contract amendment with Plant Oregon for the water quality and upland canopy recovery project. I just want to know where the additional $80,000 is coming from.
From the grant itself.
So was it an amendment to the grant or was that already built into the grant?
It was already built into the grant. The contract we originally formed with Plant Oregon was for a narrow scope. So we had only put a portion of the grant monies toward that contract.
Okay, great. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Counselor Byers,
I move to approve the contract amendment with Plant Oregon for the water quality and upland canopy recovery project.
Second.
there's a motion and a second to approve the city manager's execution of contract amendment with Plant Oregon for the water quality and upland canopy recovery project. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7 is unfinished business. There is none. Item number 8 is new business. 8.1, consideration of Parks and Recreation Commission recommendations regarding dogs in Chuck Roberts Park. Staff?
Great. I would love to invite up Charlie Cross, our Parks Chair. And I'll tee it up for you, Charlie. For the past few months, the Parks Commission has been doing a lot of work to survey the community to discuss dogs in Chuck Robert Park. And so this result is coming from a recommendation by the Parks Commission, I'm sorry. My last night, and I'm still working on those 2 words. So Charlie, I will pass it off to you.
Thank you, Jordan. And I'm going to do a quick parenthetical before I talk about dog parks, because I'm looking at the most amazing, competent, and compassionate city manager I've ever had the pleasure to have anything with, and not just city manager, but lots of different roles. So, Jordan, thank you for your service to this city. Wish you all the best in what's in the next year. So back to dogs. Spend a lot more time. But back to dogs. Mark, why don't you come up and join me? We formed a dog parks subcommittee. This is Mark Kraus, a fellow parks commissioner, and one of the 2, he and Donna Ruiz are leading the dog parks subcommittee that we've done, along with several other members of the community who are not members of the commission. And they have done a fabulous job, as Jordan said, kind of talking to people first very informally, just what are people thinking, and then putting together this survey with over 100 responses, some of them on paper, some of them online, most of them I think online, and got some feedback. Some of it was expected, some of it was unexpected, but what is it that the city of Talent is looking for regarding dogs in parks, specifically the dog parks, but also dogs in other parks. And so we're here before you tonight with 2 items that we've been kicking around in the Parks Commission for a while now that we're now ready to bring to council. I think it makes sense to talk about them one at a time. They don't sort of bundle together. And the first one is we're recommending a modification to the city ordinance to allow dogs on leashes on the gravel pathways in Chuck Roberts Park. So this is not a wide open, bring your dogs thing, not a cancellation of the no dogs rule. It's a very specific thing of dogs on leashes on those existing gravel, decomposed granite, whatever the right terminology is, pathways that sort of go around the rectangular grassing. So there's a lot of support from the community. Mark, anything you want to add on this?
Yeah, sure. Mark Kraus, I'm up here in Talent, Oregon. And also just want to point out Susan she's was on the subcommittee and wonderful job. And we did collect quite a bit of data, and it's based, so our recommendations are based on what people have told us. And our task of the subcommittee was just to go find that out. And the intentionally assembled folks who either had dog or didn't have dog, used Chuck Roberts, didn't use it that much. Casey Mahoney is another community member that was on it. And so what's coming before you is really something that's based on the response that we got over a 3-month period. We wait until they absolutely crippled to nothing until we felt like, well, everyone who's going to respond is going to respond. So 104 folks that had responded, and I can share specific numbers, but those reports have been out there. I'm not sure if it's why for that, but it was the reason why the recommendation is being made is that consensus the response that we got on the survey that we got on television review and the city hall building, and also nice road well traffic public businesses.
So what we would love for you to do is a motion to carry this forward if if you guys think it's a good idea, but in the meantime, we're also here to answer any questions that any of you have.
I just have a technical question. So the motion to accept the recommendation would result in staff bringing back the information and a public and having a hearing about it, right? Or having it on an agenda item where public can speak on. Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go ahead and take this one at a time. I'll entertain a motion. If there's no questions. Counselor Penamara?
I move to direct staff to prepare an ordinance supporting in support of recommendation number 1 from the Parks Commission.
Second. We have a motion and a second will you put it in the chat? To direct
Oh.
staff to prepare an ordinance. What was the rest you said? Prepare an ordinance.
In support of
In support.
recommendation number 1 from the Parks Commission.
In support of recommendation number 1 from the Parks Commission regarding leash dogs allowed. Yeah, on the gravel walkways. Thanks. Any further discussion?
I would just love to ask a quick clarification just to capture on the record. So I do see in your recommendation, it's one is to allow leash dogs on the gravel path of Chuck Roberts Park specifically. But 2, I see in here a recommendation to oh, sorry, I read that in the next one down. Was there any recommendation for the other parks, or is it just Chuck Roberts Park that the recommendation is being made on?
I think at this point, we're officially recommending Chuck Roberts. I believe there may be some words in there that sort of hold the thought open for the future. Honestly, and now I'm just speaking to me. Maybe we should see how 1 goes.
Perfect. Just wanted to clarify that language so when they before it. Thank you.
We can also table the matter until, if you guys want to ask that question of the, because here's why. Let me just say, it would be more efficient for us to do this as one action if there is consideration of other parks. So if you guys feel totally clear that that's been vetted and talked about, and this is really just specific to Chuck Roberts Park, I think we should, but I just think it would be easier on staff and more efficient if there's consideration for additional parks. That we do that as a one action.
Sure, yeah, thanks, Mary Darby. It was in dog park subcommittee meetings, that was something that was talked about extensively, and our recommendation is Chuck Roberts exclusively and without discussion of other the same kinds of things in other parks at this point at all. And the main reason why, in case you're wondering, is that it's so centrally located, so commonly used, it has been especially in the last couple of years, COVID and through that, Susan can give a lot of, she lives right near there and uses it a lot. So she's sort of a resident anthropologist. We have the data, that's the numbers and the graphs, but also she talks to and gets to talk to by other dog owners a lot. And it just seems that's the place to be focusing on, because there's so much dog traffic there.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Jordan. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Actually,
What's that?
sorry, I did
Oh, you have another?
wanna, yeah, I just wanted to say, I'd like to leave it open for, as staff prepares for this, if staff, has any opinions about maybe wanting to include all parks, I wouldn't be opposed to, just staff adding their expertise if they wanted to broaden it a little bit. And they thought that was a good idea. I think that would be fine. I'm getting what the Parks Commission is saying, and I think that's supported, but I think we can, because there will be a public hearing, I think we can be a little bit
So
more.
you want to amend your motion, because as it is, it's as recommended by Parks.
But isn't it just staff?
We directed staff to prepare as recommendation number 1 specifically. I would just ask you to either amend it.
Okay.
Also have another commissioner here.
okay.
So
Green.
hold on one
Yep.
second. We're in deliberation, and if there's questions, I'll entertain the questions, but as such. So do you want to ask questions of any of the other commissioners?
Yeah, I'd like to know, Julie, if Julie has something pertinent to add.
Julie Green, I live in Talent. I'm a Parks Commissioner. That actually was part of our discussion, but it wasn't included in the survey. Will there be parks that are exclusively reserved just for people? Because there are a number of people in the community who are really concerned about dogs. They have a fear of dogs. Children have a fear of dogs. And so we didn't specifically include all parks, hoping that we would have a chance to explore that a little bit further and get more community input on that. That's why it was excluded.
Okay.
Any other questions? Councilor Perry Miller?
I'm just trying to remember the survey questions. Were there more questions about Chuck Roberts Park and William Park specifically? It's nodding.
But the questions were primarily focused on Chuck Robbins.
Okay, and was that just based on communication with community members coming up with a survey?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, it was basically, it sort of formed based on what's things have been going on at Chuck Roberts, interactions between dogs and people that have dogs and don't have dogs. So it was very much focused on that, especially again, given its high level of traffic. And I think that there were some on the committee, including myself, that in the spirit of what Julie said, do believe that there are some parks that maybe it is best just to maybe have some that don't have options for not having dogs.
Memory refresher.
Yeah.
See if I can do that without flipping my chair. As I've done before. Councilor Myers?
May I ask a question about process?
Yes.
Okay, so if we would like to instruct staff to include their opinion about this much more specific ordinance or wider ordinance, that's just opening it up as an option for discussion and public input from hearing.
One
correct?
second. Are we having problems with audibility? Can you hear okay out there? That's right. You're right, and I will give you an opportunity to do that. Thank you for pointing that out. My apologies for missing your speaker request one. I'll give you a minute, in just a second.
So if we are instructing staff to both look into this recommendation, but to also share their opinion on whether we should do this more refined, exacting version of an ordinance or a wider one, what that's doing is opening up the topic for discussion further for community input, correct? It's not limiting our decision as a council when we are approving an ordinance or asking for it to be refined further, right?
That's true.
So what this does is it just allows for greater community engagement and input. And it also allows for us to still hold the more specific recommendation by parks, correct?
I'm not sure that I agree with that.
Okay.
But I mean, I do think that if we bring forward the specific recommendation, we bring forward the language of the specific recommendation. I mean, I'm happy to hear from staff about this, but I mean, I think that's the question we'll be entertaining.
Right.
And you know, of course, at that time we can amend it as well.
Mhm.
I just feel like the benefit of if it's the intention of this council to broaden that discussion, to
Mhm.
broaden it now, so that we can publicize it as a broader question.
Right, however.
Am I getting to the question you're asking?
Yes, however, we can refine our decision in the moment
That's right.
after hearing public input.
Correct.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask everybody for us to table this motion for a moment, or just because I did skip a speaker request form. So if you guys will take a seat for a minute, and I'll call Susan Bicio for to state your name and your city for the record.
Hi, I'm Susan Bizot. I live in Talent. I've lived here. I'm a homeowner. I've lived here for 15 years. I've had a dog for 7. I live behind Chuck Roberts Park. I'm there at least once a day, sometimes twice a day. During COVID, my amount of time I spent there just was up really high. And I was on the committee. I was asked to be on the committee. The people who got asked to be on the committee, there were the people who complained a lot or cared a lot, you know? So I had, at the beginning of COVID, I complained to the police because there were so many dogs over there unleashed. And I was afraid somebody was going to get hurt. And I was over there too with my dog. But I was like trying to be right on the edge. So it wasn't like breaking the law too badly. And so I learned a lot during that 3 years. And one of the things I learned was how important it is to be able to walk in the shade in the heat for myself and my dog. I learned that the grass and the granite pathways were good places for me to walk, the dog to walk, and his paws got really, really hot when we walked on the sidewalk and the street in the summer. I gradually saw the wonderful socialization that was happening through mainly young people, I would say 40 and under, throwing the balls and the frisbees after work. Totally illegal, you know, for them to be doing that. And I was so against it at the beginning. But then as I sat on my bench at the edge of the park, trying to not break the law too badly with my dog, I saw how they got to know each other. The people got to know each other. And you know, I still was against them being off leash, but it pointed out a third thing that I think we should look at is in the long-term planning, get a bigger dog park where you can really throw for the bigger dogs. So there's a lot of benefits to having dogs in parks, and we just need to do it safely. My dog's behavior improved tremendously. He was a rescue dog from Fresno, and he could be aggressive. So I would not, you know, take him to the regular dog park, and I would always have him on a leash. And after 3 years of watching other dogs socialize in the park from a distance, he became much more socialized and much less fearful of other dogs. So we didn't look at any other parks, and we were very focused. The reason why is because that's where they came. I mean, it's a heavily used park with, you know, volleyball and soccer and baseball and little kids and picnics. And now, unfortunately, unhoused people sleeping there, but that's new. So that's why we chose that park. And so I'm not against looking at the other parks, but to know the depth that we looked in, to be able to make a generalized decision. I know our committee would say, oh, hey, we only looked at this park, and other parks might have a totally different demographic. So I'll just wind up with the Little League. I know a lot about that because they're in the back of my house. Their contract, their 25-year lease is going to be up, I think, at the end of 2024, early 2025. I don't know whether you're going to have another 25-year lease or not, but it's a lot of wonderful land up there to consider doing a lot of other things. And it might be a really good place to do, very central place to do that dog park that I'm thinking of. Our little dog park is not adequate for big dogs to do that. So thanks for listening, and look forward to see what you all decide.
Thank you. Susan, can I ask you what committee you were on?
The Dogs and Parks Committee.
The subcommittee.
The subcommittee. What do you just listen to?
And what was the subcommittee made up of?
Donna Ruiz headed it up. Subcommittee,
Yeah.
Dogs and Parks.
Who were all the members on the subcommittee, just out of curiosity?
Me, Susan Bizot, Chuck, what's your name? Mark Ross, and Donna, and who else? We got a couple of people. Casey Money.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Dave?
Mayor, it occurs to me that even with the initial motion, I would probably try to put together an ordinance. I'll work to put together an ordinance that allows you an option to either to focus just on Chuck Roberts Park or to broaden so that you can, I mean, I think that'd be part of my job in any event.
Yep.
So I'm not sure you need an amendment to clarify that.
So with that, I won't ask for any further direction. Is there any other deliberation, Councilor Penamara?
Yeah, I just want to say 104 responses is tremendous work. And I really, this is just a model of what committees can do as far as community engagement. So I want to say that's great and advertise that. More of that. So well done.
Great. All right. So if there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Did you have? That hand went up for
For
further
aye or
discussion?
I'm wondering if we should amend the motion to broaden it a little bit based on Dave's comment.
I think what Dave was saying is that he'll do that anyway.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Excellent. Then
okay.
yes, aye.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Parks?
We're back. So our second recommendation is, and Susan alluded to this in her remarks, is the creation of a second dog park in Talent, focused on large dogs. The current park is a delight. A lot of people use it all the time. You just have to walk down Talent Avenue any day. But it's kind of small for the big dogs, and there are challenges with big and small dogs interacting, sometimes not so well. So having the existing Bark Park become focused on small dogs and have a new large dog park as well. And again, our suggestion is Chuck Roberts, and as Susan mentioned, there's space potentially becoming available at the back of Chuck Roberts when the Little League lease expires, or elsewhere. And in this case, I think we're very much throwing it open for discussion. Where do you guys think is best as well? But our recommendation would be a large one in Chuck Roberts because of, again, as Mark mentioned, it's central. It's already a well-used area by lots of people in town. So that's what our second recommendation is about, is to consider formation of a second park, second dog.
Yeah, just quickly here. The Chuck Roberts is, again, to remind you, it's the location of it is key. It's relatively centrally located within Talent. And there already is a very large number of people that we didn't get data on this, but you could just see it. If you go to Chuck Roberts, you'll see it. Lots of folks using, bringing large off-leash dogs to the park. And so the need does certainly need to be there for it. And it also, it seems to be on a time scale that, I mean, I don't want to be overly dramatic here, but it seems relatively urgent because lots of people are violating, a lot of people violating the ordinance. Clearly there's a need. That's what they've stated in the survey. And so, yeah, the timeline of it, we'd like to see it as quickly as possible. I know that's big ass, things move slow, but relatively quickly.
Any questions or comments? Councilor Byers?
I have a comment. As we as a council have discussed bringing people home and leaning into ensuring that there is a wide variety of types of housing, something that I notice as I look at our affordable housing and low income housing areas is it wouldn't be easy to be a dog owner if there wasn't a dog park also in Talent. And I think about having space like that open, it really improves the lives of so many people who don't have access to yards, when it's too hot in the summer to walk your dog down the sidewalk very far. And I think it makes Talent be a greater possibility for people who are seeking a home who already own a pet also. Well, I do think that there's a right discussion to figure out the best place for it. I do see a need. I'm supportive of this recommendation.
I have a question. I thought that, I haven't looked at the master plan in a long time, but I thought there was a dog park plan for Suncrest Park. And I'm not suggesting that that's the solution because I think we're decades away from Suncrest Park. But is that right? There is?
Yes.
So wouldn't this really just be an amendment to the master plan to move the dog park? Because we already have one approved. And it's just that it's planned for Suncrest. I don't know what the easiest pathway for this discussion to take place, but it seems like to me like the process could be Parks Commission reviewing the master plan, looking at all the park spaces and looking for the most logical place to move it to, and then just amending the master plan. That seems,
That, may I speak to that a
Yeah.
little? That conversation did come up in our last Parks Commission meeting, and there were a number of choices that were batted around, from Lynn Newberry to what happens in Suncrest, what is the timeline on having that park built, to Chuck Roberts. Those seem to be, the ones that might be able to accommodate a larger dog park. And really, there were enough variables that the commission at the time, and please jump in if I am not conveying this correctly, but there were enough variables that the commission at the time really valued council input on the space to use within the community for such a large footprint in a park. Especially as plans are being made to move the tennis court and that sort of thing in Chuck Roberts, and the potential uses of space for where the Little League fields are now. I am remembering that the commission really valued council's input on that space choice.
so, I think the only concern that I want to raise is that there has been a lot of discussion about moving, adding things to Chuck Roberts and moving things around. And and if the new consideration is to move the dog park to Chuck Roberts as well, I can't say that I object to that, because I think that there's no plan for all of these changes that are being made to Chuck Roberts Park. And so I feel like there's enough there at this point for us to be looking at this project holistically, rather than one piece at a time. We're going to do this here and do that there, and maybe that'll fit over there. And I feel like at this point, with all the recommendations that the park is making, Parks and Recs are making, that we should be looking at redesigning Chuck Roberts Park as a whole project, especially given the fact that, adding to the fact that the Little League Fields contract, I think, is up in 2024. Is it 2024? And whether or not that's a discussion that's going to play into the big picture as well. What's going to happen with that space? I just want to express the concern that at this point there's so much pieces in play that it might be better to just back up a little bit and look at Chuck Roberts as a whole plan and replan. And I know you guys are working hard on this, and I think that all of the community input engagement that you have will inform all of that as an important piece of that discussion. But I just want to put that out there. I feel like at this point in time, with all of the different pieces being discussed and not having any real decision about what's going to go where, it might be a good idea just to remaster plan Chuck Roberts and bring that whole plan back for further discussion.
I'm just curious, is it clear that the Little League is not interested in that space anymore?
It's not clear at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just
And
wanted to
I
make
think
sure I
that's
wasn't
part of
missing.
the, I think we need clarity on that. And I think, so there's a lot happening in Chuck Roberts Park, and yeah. Any further questions of parks or any further comments?
Well, I think it's probably a good idea to look at the big picture, because there has been a lot of talk of different things happening in Chuck Roberts.
Jordan, and then Councilor Panama.
Yeah, I just love to jump in and provide some context that I know Robert Slayton, our Public Works Superintendent, has been in conversations with the Parks Commission about how best to do some community engagement around the tennis court design. And if we want to do town halls, if we want to do surveys, et cetera. And so this could be a good opportunity to combine those two efforts to do as the council proceeds to put a more holistic look at Chuck Roberts.
Yeah, one possible motion that comes into mind is in light of these recommendations. And to support and honor these recommendations and the work that the communities have put into this is to direct staff to begin the planning process. For Chuck Roberts Park and whether or not that goes back to whether or not just maybe engaging staff members to look at planning Chuck Roberts Park and all the pieces that the park commission wants to do in that park and just make that a project engaging staff if staff has capacity. Like the point of that would be that would make it an expedient process, right? So we could have some planning happen and then a proposal for the whole park come before us in a more expedient manner if staff is involved. Does that make more or less sense to what we're talking about, Jordan?
So what I'm hearing is engage in kind of a master concept plan. Kind of take what we have now and then reincorporate the labyrinth was added, the tennis courts we're moving forward with, a dog park, etc. And then once that kind of recommendation is in place, to then bring it through a resolution for a master plan amendment to adopt that concept plan. That's kind of the process I'm seeing.
And my question to you is, yes, you heard that. I mean, I think you
Did I get it right?
synthesized it very, very
Okay.
well. And my question is that a more efficient? Like what I don't want to do is kick the can down the road and put the Parks Commission into more work. But what I want to do is help move the project. My hope, speaking for myself, is to help move the project forward in an efficient way, but that is holistic in our view of that whole park.
And I have to admit that I will be participating as a neighbor who comes to use dog parks and parks after tomorrow. And so I would love to pitch this to Tom to see if Tom, through his experience and his future role, if he has a recommended process he would take.
Yeah, well, I don't have any qualms about involving the Parks Commission further in doing some master planning because they're passionate about this and they'd like to see a resolution. We did have an experience in Central Point, and I may periodically bring my past here. We had a 9-acre park where the war memorial is, and the neighborhood got involved and was understanding what the master plan would be. And then when some amendments were suggested, I think a Vietnam Veterans Wall and some other things, the neighbors kind of came unglued. So I think it's important to do, as you say, and look at it holistically. And if the Parks Commission's amenable to doing some additional surveys or, polling adjoining neighbors and you get further information from the Little League, we might be able to just put, with their assistance, put a master plan together that you can use.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I want to make sure that I'm understood. What I'm looking to do is kind of cut out a step by suggesting that staff work with Parks Commission to come up with a master plan and then just send us a recommended amendment, as opposed to kicking this back to Parks, having them come bring us back a recommendation, then we direct staff to blah, blah, blah. I'd rather just do that tonight.
Yep.
And give I don't want to cut Parks out of the process, that's for sure. But what I want to do is give them staff support and have the next step be a recommendation for an amendment to the master plan based on the whole park design. Those are my thoughts. That's what I'm asking to consider tonight.
And, sorry, Charlie, go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
I'm really liking what you're saying, Darby. There are at least 4 amenities that are kind of in play at Chuck Roberts. There's the new dog park that brings us here tonight. There's the replaced tennis and pickleball courts, which will be in a new location. And there's the labyrinth that we talked about a few months ago. And then there's a new playground, which will sit approximately where the old playground and the current old tennis courts are. Those are, and Robert Slayton has presented us with a preliminary design for that, which looks fabulous. So these are all four things. So the idea of thinking of it all holistically, I think is a great idea. And I love the idea of having staff support to pull this together, because I don't know that any of us are competent designers, and having the professionalism of somebody like Robert and his gang involved is, I think, very appealing. And as you say, make the process more efficient, to get us there quicker. Because that's how people think.
Council Penamarath.
I'm supportive of this process and the holistic approach, but I have a question, and this is coming from being in workshops about placemaking and talking about doing temporary things and seeing how the community likes it, kind of like a little pilot project. What I'm wondering is a dog park much more than a fence? Would it be possible, because when we talk about this taking decades and years, I'm wondering if there is maybe a shorter path to a temporary large dog park, with the understanding that it would, might get moved, but where it would be some benefit to actually try it out and to see how neighbors actually like it. In other words, take a good guess. If it's not too expensive, have a short-term solution sooner rather than later. So that's more of a question, because to me, a large dog park is like a fence, but maybe I'm wrong.
Councilor Byers.
Speaking as a dog owner of large dogs. I think a dog park for large dogs requires some cement for every fence post, and a fence that's at least 6 feet high, if not higher, which is a little more permanent than less permanent. However, that's just one person's experience with the durability factor for a bigger dog.
Yes.
Yeah, so just speaking firstly as a member of Parks Commission, what's being said here makes total sense to me. Get it, because I've been on meetings about things like the labyrinth and the football tennis courts with me, and so on. And then also I would be remiss if I didn't publicly speak out on behalf of the dog park subcommittee, which is much more sort of in this direction here with Councilor Penamarath, which is, yes, it's. I couldn't build one myself, so I'm not going to say it's easy, but in the grand scheme of things, the hope was to get something up and functional to deal with the current sort of dog situation in Chuck Roberts.
So I guess I'm just trying to add that to the holistic approach of ideas with, staff professionalism can weigh in on that. Parks that can just be part of the mix. Because it might be beneficial, it might be worth the cement posts and that extra work if the community has something sooner, and if we learn something from it.
I do want to add that that's what the current dog park is. It's exactly that. It was a temporary park put up. It was never meant to be the solution. It was never, you'll notice that it was not in any plans. It just was put up as a temporary solution for the long-term larger dog park, which was planned for Suncrest. And now that larger park is built into the master plan. And it de facto became like, a small dog park or something, or discussions about the small dog park, but it literally was, and I was around when that was in the planning stages. So I appreciate the point, but I agree with Council Byers. A large dog park is a big commitment with a lot of space needed. And I feel like we should just pull the Band-Aid off and do a master plan for that park and get it built. We have, Councilor Byers?
Well, I would just say to that point, and to the point I was making earlier about like this type of public space being especially supportive of folks who don't have yards. Chuck Roberts is the park that's closest to most of those neighborhoods that have no yards. So if we're wanting to create a space that's truly usable for the people who will need to use it most,
right,
there it is.
I don't think, and I just want to echo that as well. I don't think we're hearing any disagreement about this idea. What we're hearing, I'm just proposing the idea that we step back now with
Mhm.
all of these different pieces
Mm.
and plan it as a whole park. So that we can optimize the space. For the benefit of what will be decades of use. And I know that's not what anybody wants to hear or do, but I think, finally, I just want to say you certainly have most of the community engagement already done. This should be fairly easy, I would say. And then the next piece of community engagement would be when it came back as an amendment. So there's a couple of options on the table. I'm not here to make decisions for the council. I just wanted to throw those out as a second option. I will entertain a motion when we're ready. Councilor Byers?
Question on process. So if we are amending the parks master plan to move the location of the planned large dog park from one park to another, does that require a public hearing as well?
It will, I think it will hear, yeah, won't it? And so, and I just want to make clear what I'm suggesting is that we just amend the parks plan to redesign. Chuck
Absolutely,
Roberts.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I
which
hear
could
that.
include moving the dog
Mhm.
park or whatever, you know.
And would you really even have to move the other dog park or just put one at Chuck Roberts and then, because who knows, by the time Suncrest, anything happens there, another dog park may be desired.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on the level of detail and data that's associated with the dog park at Suncrest. That would be my thought, in which case you'd probably have to look at that again. And I don't think it's very detailed, if I remember correctly. So it could be either or, and I would be happy for parks and staff to figure that out. Yeah. Jordan?
Yeah, so just what I'm hearing is kind of a potential motion would be to direct staff to work with the Parks Commission to propose a Chuck Roberts master plan that includes a large dog park. And then I just want to let you guys know that a future conversation that council will have, or Tom will likely have with you, is just staff capacity and timing on when to get that done amongst the other project priorities that are going on. And that could be a future conversation that Tom has after working with Kristen and Robert specifically.
With that said, I wouldn't discourage parks from starting.
Yeah.
And just like drawing pictures on a napkin if you have to, but yeah, I don't think that would hold me up. Anyway, all right, so there's a couple options on the table. Councilor Byers?
Do we know when we'll have a more definitive answer about the Little League's desired use or letting go of using that space?
I think that'd be a natural next step would be for staff to then talk Little League and say, hey, we're looking to redesign the park. You know, what are your guys' plans? How many fields do you really use? Et cetera. I think that'd be part of the planning process.
Super important question is, how many fields do you actually use? And like, you know, compressing that around potentially adjusted schedules and things like that, where you can compress the use of those. I hope that I would encourage that. I would just ask one more question of the Parks Commission. Would you rather take this discussion back to Parks and let us know what the Parks Commission feels about what we're discussing, or would you rather have us just make a motion tonight and make a decision? I don't want to step on the commission's toes.
Well, I guess to be fair here, I already said kind of my thing is that I agree with your idea of let's take a holistic and look at several new amenities that we're talking about and kind of have a new master plan for this park. But that, I'm just one of the commissioners. So I don't know that in saying that, I'm speaking for all of us.
Well, I think on this question, you can. You're the chair. And you know, whether or not you want to take it back to your team and say, this is what the council proposed. Do we want to just advance our recommendation? Or do we want to consider do we want to renew our recommendation to align with what we're talking about? Or would you rather, you know, I think you can make that decision.
Well, then I would say I would love a motion tonight to ask staff, direct staff, right verb, to work with us to come up with a new plan for Chuck Roberts, including the new dog park and the other elements that we mentioned here. And you're recognizing there's going to be some back and forth, and as you said, staff availability. But also, as you said, Mayor, we're meeting next week. I think, can start doing some napkin planning of our items. And I'm sure many of us, probably all of us, have already been thinking. So,
Yeah, you have a staff member, doesn't Robert go to the meetings? Yeah,
Yes.
so you, at least from a conversational standpoint, have some support.
yeah, he's almost always there unless he's away at a conference.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Counselor Byers? I'll entertain a motion. Counselor Byers?
I move to direct staff to work with the Parks and Recreation Commission to draw up plans for an amendment to the master plan specific to Chuck Roberts Park.
That includes the dog park?
That includes a dog park.
Okay.
Second,
We have a motion and a second to direct staff to work with Parks Commission to draw up plans to amend the master plan at Chuck Roberts Park to include a dog park. Did I get it right?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for the great work that you've done with the
And
community.
thank you all for the very thoughtful conversation, everybody around this table.
Yeah, really appreciate the important work you're doing with community engagement. Thank you, Council Byers. All right. The next item on the agenda is resolution 2023-079-R, updating signers on the Citibank accounts. Staff report?
This is a resolution that officially gives Tom the power to sign city checks in his role as interim city manager.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion. Counselor Byers?
I move to adopt a resolution 2023-079-R.
Second. We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2023-079-R, updating signers on Citibank accounts. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Do you have to point
Do I-
out
is this a-
information roll call?
Yes.
Because this
Oh, yeah,
resolution?
okay. Roll call, please. Thank you, Councilor.
Yes.
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 Thank you, Lucero. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item number 9. The council will, do I have a script?
I do have the script for you.
Thank you.
Apologies.
Is it on? We are, the council, the Talent City Council will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660 parentheses 2 parentheses D to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry out on labor negotiations. Designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of audience, including representatives of the media, are directed to exit the room. No decision will be made in this executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session.
And they're actually like to walk through the process for entering executive session since we're on hybrid tonight.
Okay, I think we still have an audience member that we need to ask. We're going into
Okay, Mayor, you should be good to go.
Great. So should I repeat all that?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we're back in session. Back in regular session, there were no decisions made. So we're going to go ahead and move on to item number 10, other business and future agenda items. Are there any other business or future agenda items?
I have remind council that the third meeting, September 20th, churro will be held at 5:30 p.m.
Okay. I have two questions I want to ask. One is, I was supposed to sign an amendment to the ARPA thing and I never got back to the office.
Great.
I was buried last week too.
No
So-
problem. So we'll put Tom's contract in your mailbox tomorrow.
It'll be with Tom's
It'll be
contract.
with Tom's
Okay, very
contract.
good. And then also there was a name on the subcommittee from Parks that I didn't recognize. Can you tell me, were all of those Parks commissioners on that subcommittee?
No.
Okay. I do think that there's room for a discussion about how subcommittees are appointed.
Okay.
Yeah, so we don't need to have it now. It's just a regular business. But there is an appointment policy that I think sounds like it got maybe overlooked.
I believe so. And also I know Donna worked with Jordan to create the subcommittee.
Yeah, and I need to refer back to the subcommittee policy in their bylaws. My reflection is, and I'll ask Hector to look this up tomorrow, is that commissions can select subcommittees, but they'll be seen as public bodies. The subcommittees can be composed of committee members as well as community members appointed by the commission.
And that is what I recall you telling me when I asked that same question.
Yeah, and I think that's in conflict with our appointment policy. So that might be what
Okay.
we need to look at.
Perfect.
So it doesn't sound like they are overlooking any policy, it just sounds like we have conflicting policies.
Mm-hmm.
And then subcommittees are subject to meeting law. Yeah. And then do subcommittees make recommendations did the subcommittees make recommendations to the Parks Commission?
They presented their findings.
Got it. Okay, great. That's it for me. Anybody else? There are, item number 11 is written communications. There are none. And this meeting's adjourned at 9:05.
Perfect. Thank you all. End of meeting. So you got it, Lucetta? I'm perfect. You want to leave your meeting? One second. Lucetta's gonna turn it off. Okay, have a good night, everybody.
You can get out of the Zoom.